anyhow, because that's what I do. So let's talk about what came before. There was a time on this planet before the magic, before when people walked around without these these magic wands in their hands and had to do business on paper and ink. And back in this paper and ink day, you got a customer service from a human. Pretty cool, pretty novel idea because it was the only option. You had to, if you wanted to make a deposit, you drove to the bank and you talked to a bank teller. If you wanted, so it all required humans. And then along came software and began to change the game, both positive and negative. We had to navigate first command prompts and then menus and then graphical user interfaces, but we got service quicker. We couldn't get a lot of service. We still needed a human for a bunch of things. And that's kind of where chatbots fit in. Chatbots can speak and communicate like a human customer service agent, but they have access to the back-end software services like an app. So it's the best of both worlds when it works. And of course, this started with talking on the phone and press or say one. I'm old enough to remember first time I heard that, and I'm like, you mean I can speak to this thing instead of pressing a button? I can talk. It was quite the thing back then. So let's talk about these chatbots. Let's talk about what they do in a comprehensive kind of way. Let's talk about where they're going in the future, most specifically, because I have some very specific predictions about all of this. There's three things to every chatbot. Chatbot communicates with humans. It comprehends what that human is asking or saying, and it's able to connect to either other humans or back-end services that allow its understanding of the human's needs to be uh, satisfied. So let's take these one at a time. Let's start with communication. This, has been going on for quite a while. In fact, I think probably some of the earliest successes in AI had to do with understanding text and understanding speech. This has been a desire of scientists for a long time to be able to communicate with a machine. Now, in science fiction, those machines look like robots. They look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They look like computers and HAL. But this has been a dream. And so the collection of data and the execution of AI on that data has been literally one of the earliest things besides game playing that AI has tackled. And so two primary means of communication, which mimic the human communication of speech and text. And for text, it tends to be websites, social networks, and as the last speaker talked about, messaging apps. And for speech, smartphones, smart speakers, and IoT, we're going to talk about this one because this is, I think, one of the most active areas of research for the future. Are the things that we speak to, the form factors that receive the human voice. And so for get my screen to the place I want it. So for websites, there's some interesting statistics that are coming out. People are getting used to chat on websites. The numbers aren't quite there yet, but the attitude is there. 34% of consumers prefer using chatbots while shopping online. They prefer it to just navigating menus. They prefer it to clicking and swiping and trying to find what they want. Discoverability is one of the things that they use. Show me men's boots in size 12, right? Instead of having to navigate over and click and click and click and pick all of those filters. This number is obviously going to grow and grow a great deal. 64% of users cite 24/7 availability as the best feature. Duh, right? This is the reason we use automation is because we don't have to wait on hold. We don't have to wait in line for a human. And so, expect both of these numbers to grow a great deal. Expect most websites in the future to have some form of chat capability. Expect people to figure out how to make it work and how to make it less intrusive, and how to really win here. Look, we're at the early stages of this. This is, if we had to, go back in time and compare this to anything, it would be the late 80s, where we started shifting from paper and ink world to a software world. And now we're shifting from a software world to an AI world. And this is when people get to make the rules. This is when your creativity and your innovation gets to trump. Oh, I said that word. I swore I wouldn't swear. Gets to wipe away everything that other people are doing. This is the time to compete. This is the time to innovate. Social networks. Now, social networks, this is really where the intent is. Social networks are where we talk about the upcoming trip that we're taking. Social networks are where we talk about we want to go to dinner tonight. Social networks are where you ask your friends what they're doing. Social networks are where you plan gatherings. There's a ton of intent there of people telling the machines, telling the network in textual form, this is what I want. The problem with social networks is the people who can resolve that intent aren't there, or they're not paying attention. This is a job for bots. This is a job for, hey, is anybody talking about travel? Because I own an airline. I represent an airline. Is anybody talking about beer? Because I own a brewery. Is anybody talking about food? Because I own a restaurant. Does anybody need a ride to the airport? Because I drive ride shares, right? That's where the intent is. And so expect this 300,000 on Facebook. That number is going to go way up. It's going to go way up on Twitter. It's going to go way up on any sort of platform that attracts people and people discuss their intent. And then messaging apps, I'm not going to go, the last speaker, I think, did a pretty good job of talking about the fact that messenger apps are being used now to satisfy the intent of customers. And of course, airlines are one of the places that are doing that in a big way. So now for speech, talking to your smartphone. Fewer than 50% of customers prefer speaking to a human agent on their phone. They are happy with chatbots. So fewer than 50%. That's not even half of us, but that number is going to grow. I think that is for the year 2020, that is a very impressive number, that there are somewhere close to 50% of people who actually aren't choosing the human, right? It used to be the first thing you said was speak to a human, speak to a human, speak to a representative. And those numbers are changing. And I think that says a lot about where we're going in the future. And it's also helping human agents. Human agents aren't having any fun, solving the simple problems. They want to solve the complex problems. They want to use their training. They want to be challenged. They want to solve a hard enough problem where, the customer is like, dude, you are amazing. I'm going to write a hell of a good review about you. So this is, everybody's enjoying this. Smart speakers. So only 16% of customers have used smart speakers for purchases. This is probably Alexa because Amazon's got the shopping data. These smart speakers are good at different things because the companies that make them have different sets of data. Right? The reason Alexa is going to be better at shopping is because they got a ton of shopping data. Not only that, Alexa knows a little bit about you because it has access to your Amazon account and knows what you bought in the past. So of course, it's going to be the speaker that's the best for shopping. Of course, the Google Assistant is going to be the best speaker if you need to access an index of the world's information because Google's got the biggest index of the world's information, right? They're going to be good at the data, back-end data that they are connected to. And no one I talk to, and none of the statistics I run across expects these things to stagnate. We saw PCs get better and better and better throughout the 90s. We saw websites get better and better and better throughout the 2000s. We saw web applications get better and better and better through the 2010s. Guess what's going to happen to smart speakers? They're going to get better. They're going to understand a lot more of the questions that you ask. They're going to understand a lot more of the intent that you have. And they're going to figure out how to connect to back-end services that allow them to resolve those intents. And finally, IoT. We are beginning to talk to a lot more devices than we used to. My Comcast remote control, Comcast, I was, a loud complainer about Comcast to the point that, I went off to another provider at one point. And then when I went back to Comcast, I was shocked at how much progress that company made in improving my television viewing experience. And a lot of it was voice in the remote control. I don't have to look at my remote and figure out, okay, how do I get to my DVR? I just ask for my DVR. I don't have to worry about, okay, where's the Netflix channel in here so I can change to Netflix. It'll do it for me. And so what we're seeing is a specific IoT device connected to the data that IoT device provides. It's happening with ovens. It's happening with stoves. It's happening with refrigerators. It's happening with burglar alarms. It's happening with your doorbell. It's happening with your door locks. It's happening in homes. It's happening in elevators. There's a bunch of things to watch for here. Specifically, the fact that the devices themselves are getting smart. I am talking directly to my TV. I'm not talking to my TV through a Roku. I'm not talking to my TV through a Chromecast. I'm talking directly to the TV. And so you're going to see more of these device makers build speech capabilities, build conversational understanding directly into their devices. And you're going to have a lot less need for third-party applications. This is another place where the innovation is going to decide who wins. So that's communications. Now let's talk about comprehension and what exactly goes on here. So they're trying to understand three things. They're trying to understand you, because the better my Alexa speaker knows about my shopping habits, the more they're going to be able to recommend products that I actually want. They need to understand my intent. What do I really need from this conversation? And then there needs to be some back and forth. And this is the part that's kind of awkward on all of the smart speakers these days, is you ask one question, and then you can't really follow up directly without having to repeat all of those trigger words. And so it's pretty unnatural. Expect that to get a lot better. Expect that, hey, I heard what you said, and now I need a little bit more information. Expect those conversations to last a lot longer, and expect the ability to really narrow in, zoom in on what exactly your intent is to get better. They know your preferences. And so the important piece here is they know your preferences within the data that they have access to. Siri is better at controlling a phone than Alexa and Google, obviously, because that's mostly what she does. That's mostly the data that's there. Alexa is better at shopping. Google is better at research and searching the internet. And they're getting better at intent. I mean, intent is something, we have figured out. Search engines have been working on understanding what you type and what you really want, and connecting your intent, your typed intent, to data. We've been doing this since the late 1990s. We're very good at extracting intent from text. It's called search engines. And now we're more and more we're speaking. When I'm in my car, I never touch my phone. It's illegal in the state that I'm in, and I could get a big fine for it. But it's really good at just listening to my commands. I need driving directions to this. I need you to text this person. I need you to put set these reminders. It's a really active place for me to interact with my devices while I'm driving. And so I expect this to trend to continue as well. Chatbots are becoming the preferred UI for any type of search. And then finally, conversational understanding. People are having fun with this. 3 out of 5 millennials have used chatbots and had conversations with them. That's a lot. And you think, okay, you expect that of millennials, you expect that of Gen Z, maybe even Gen X, my generation, but boomers, people older than me, are more likely to cite the benefits of chatbot than any other generation. This is a statistic of my research that surprised me the most. I would have figured that this is the generation that would prefer a human. This is the generation that, as a developer of chatbots, I would have to bend over backwards to try to get to use my chatbot. It's not true. We need to make sure that we're not assuming based on someone's age, their willingness to engage with these things, particularly with smart speakers. They're keeping people company in care homes. They're keeping lonely seniors company by having conversations with them. You'd be surprised, the older generation, how much technology they're using. Females tend to be more ready to use chatbots than males, right? We're bad at asking for driving directions back when you had to do that, right? That's the stereotype of men. We use it as a last resort because, I don't know, we're men. Who knows why we do what we do? And now let's talk about the connection, because this is really going to decide how you use chatbots for your own sets of data. In the beginning, chatbots connected to humans. It was a way of routing calls to the right customer service agent. And it still does this a great deal, right? So and then there's apps connecting it to an app. We call this, what do we call it? When I was at Microsoft, we call it deep linking, an app where, you say what you want, and instead of having to navigate all these menus, you go directly to the functionality in the app that you need, right? There's an app I talk about sometimes when I give live presentations. It's called Run P, and it tells you when to pee at the movies. And so it's always one I wanted a voice interface for, because I'm sitting in a movie and I realize I've got to go. I've got to get my app out. I have to figure out, okay, is this one of the boring moments where it's got like a 4-minute pee window? It would be nice to just say, hey, I gotta go, right? And have it immediately figure out what, listen ambiently to the movie that you're in, geolocate you, figure out what movie you're watching, figure out, where the bathrooms are located, and say, okay, if you wait 6 minutes, there's a 2-minute pee window and you can go and do it, right? Because that's the real value here, is removing that user interface completely and replacing it with voice. And voice can deep link into the exact part of the app without going through all that layers of UI. Mark my words, UIs are doomed. They are going to be replaced by voice. If you're still developing graphical user interfaces and trying to innovate on graphical user interfaces in 2020, it's similar to building desktop apps in 2010 when everybody else is moving to mobile. It's similar to building command line applications in 2000 when everyone else was moving to the web. The world is moving to voice for facts and more than that too, right? We talked about travel before, so I'm not going to beat this. It's not just AirAsia, it's everybody. Delta Airlines, KLM, they're all connecting with customers either through their app or through a messenger device, a service, and talking directly to their customers. And of course, bots. This is where the real power is. My AI talking to another AI and extracting information from data. That's where the real power is. Because make no mistake, chatbot is AI. It's the type of AI my company does, Defying Crowd. We have tens of thousands of voice samples that are labeled and annotated, and we understand what people are saying when they talk. We have a crowd of some 300,000 people who are able to give us new data for different dialects and accents and even speech impediments. There's no one that we're not going to be able to understand in the future. This is definitely the voice, the UI of the future. So let's talk about a few things that that are going to happen here for the future. Um, 5 billion is going to be invested in chatbots by 2021. That's a lot of money. This is going to, when money happens, innovation follows. And so I think this is going to be something where you can't just attend a conference on voice technology once a year and keep up. It's going to happen quick. Greater than 50% of service organizations will adopt chatbot technology by next year. 85% of customer interactions will be solved without human agents, and furthermore, without user interfaces except chat, except voice, except conversation. There's some more deeper predictions now as we go into the future. More will be spent on chatbots than on mobile apps by 2022. That's a little over a year from now. And if that is a good signal that there are some changes coming. What is Apple going to do with an app store that's draining? There are tons of interactions and things that we have to think about in the future. By 2025, speech UIs will overtake traditional GUIs. I've been talking about that before. There will be no GUI developers in 5 to 10 years. No one's going to be writing user interfaces. They're all going to be adopting chat, which means collecting data from companies like ours and connecting it to back-end AI that is other data, deep connecting into applications. There's going to be no going to app stores and collecting apps. Your chatbot will find what you need and crack open that app for you. Chatbot technology and implementation will dominate the startup landscape, and this is where it really gets exciting. In a couple of years, there will be more money spent on chatbot startups than there will on any other kind of startup. This is where the innovation is going to come from. This is where the rapid advancement is going to come from. I mean, look at the 90s. The PC technology going into the 90s and going out of the 90s. It's not recognizable. Look at the web technology going into the 2000s and then going out of the 2000s. It's not recognizable. It advanced that fast. Look at your iPhone in 2010 compared to your iPhone now in 2020. It has really rapidly advanced. That's what's going to happen in AI, and chat is going to lead the way over the 2020s. Banks automating close to 90% of customer interactions by 2023. 2.5 billion customer service hours logged by bots, saved by bots in 2024. And I think if you look at the fields that are really going to benefit, there's obvious travel, there's obvious hospitality. But if you look a little bit deeper, legal and medical chatbots are already happening. You can converse with a legal chatbot and it will figure out your case for you. It will figure out a way forward. Same with talking to virtual doctors for treatment. These are massive pools of data. And of course, they're going to be connected to voice. The big companies, what's going to be happening with things like Siri, Bixby, and Cortana, I think they are going to go toward application acquisition and control. Voice will be the UI for the iPhone. It will be the UI for Samsung phone. It will be the UI for Windows. But they're limited by their other data sets. I think Apple has a bit of an advantage here. I think they can get really creative with the data that they have. And then, of course, Alexa and Google Assistant will focus on their data and getting better and better at what they do. Expect Google Assistant to help your kid with your homework way better than you could, and expect Alexa to be able to order the exact product you want, model number and everything, probably before you even know you need it. Content will favor the data owners. I'm looking at you, Spotify. Are you kidding me? You guys should dominate the music landscape by being the first to voice and being able to discover new music by talking to a friend, basically. And then IoT is where the real battleground is being fought. Nobody is dominating smart homes. Nobody's dominating smart buildings. We need to remote control buildings because of a future pandemic, and everybody understands that now. And there's no clear front runner here. So I don't have time to talk to this. I can see because Richard's back on, and he's looking at me. He's like, dude, you're almost out of time. He's looking at me. I can tell. Augmented reality and voice. You want your mind blown. This is it, right? Because not only can you speak to the machines can take a virtual or augmented reality form and communicate back in ways that are just going to blow our minds. 3D for real estate. This is one of the biggest places where voice technology works right now. Shopping, travel experiences are going to be stunning. You're going to be able to try on your outfit without leaving the house. And then social media, only because that's where the intent is. And so that's it. That's my presentation. I don't know if a big company is going to win this era. You know, Microsoft won the 90s, Google won the 2000s, Apple won the 2010s. Who's going to win the 2020s? It's probably going to be a company that none of us have ever heard of, maybe even defined crowd. That's it. I'm James Whitaker.